Editors, I'm going to give you some instructions on how to do Bluebook editing things. So this is Stevenson's article that I had to edit as a 2L last year as a junior editor. And my footnotes were 19 through 22. So I'm actually going to zoom this in a little bit so I can see my footnotes better. And I'm going to go down to 19. And then I'm just going to select all. So see, once I'm actually in the footer, I can just select them as I go down. And I like to use shorthand keys, so I'm just holding down my shift button and using arrows. So now I'm going to Command C. You can also right click and copy as well. So now we're going to go into Word and do new blank document. And then I do Control V, or you can also just do paste and paste it in there. So then we're going to go in here and manually change. And as you can see, I just kind of clicked next to the footnote number. So that's 19. Actually, sometimes I like to zoom this in even more with my old eyes. So I'm going to delete that and go 19. Same, this is going to be 20. Sometimes I highlight, do that too. I'm a big proponent of shortcut keys. So if you guys just Google how to do such things, makes your life a lot easier. So we'll just keep going. 24, 25, 26, and 27. So those are them. Now the next thing I like to do is I like to put spaces in there. It just helps me see everything better. Usually, as far as formatting, you don't really need to worry about doing this because our publisher usually has a certain format of how they like to do the spacing between the footnotes. So here we have, so she's citing this Brosman case. So I'm going to go back, let's see, to Stevenson's article, and I'm going to find out where. I'm going to Control F and Brosman and find out where she first cited it. So that's at footnote 3. So I have to go back and look at that, and obviously it's a 2-lane law review article. So I'm just making sure that she did supra, because supra in Latin means above, and that she did quote it above number footnote 19, and she did. It's at number 3, so I'm good. So that's how that works. So the next thing is that she's got this Louisiana State Law Institute translation. This is a treatise, and as you notice, treatise, that's one of the ones that I think falls under the periodical rule. So, and just look at the streamlined citation to do these small cap things. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's Command-Shift-K on a Mac in order to get that to happen. But you guys can look that up. Okay, so here, what's happening with these blanks right here that Stevenson has, she wants me to look up the footnote for that. So what I would had to do was you would have done with your text editing is you would have found where she's quoting such things. So let's go back to 19. So here's 19. So in order to figure that out, so she's quoting respectable position. So what you would do is in that Brosman Law Review article is you would find the footnote where he's quoting that right there. And then you would fill in the number. Let's just say, let's see what it was when I did it. It was actually note 3, as you can see. So then you would go ahead, obviously, always turn on track changes. Sometimes I don't go in order, sometimes I forget to do such things, but so we're going to hit back, and it was 3. The other thing that you need to do when you're doing footnote citations, I'm going to get rid of these highlights because you don't need to highlight things for me or anything like that. These highlights are just for demonstrative purposes for you guys. So, and obviously you don't need that there. I don't need to know that you highlighted stuff. Oops, let's go back and undo. Okay, so what I need you guys to do, and I didn't really explain too well last night, was that when you're reading these things, I need you to also be checking for grammar. So you're going to be, paragraph thing. You're going to be you need to check for spacing. You definitely have to do that for me, because otherwise, if I can't tell that there's extra spaces here, I need you guys to do that as well. So that was something that one of your one of your fellow editors brought up that you also need to be checking for grammar and for spelling and such things. What else was there? So obviously this right here, and I'll highlight that in blue, is what we usually call an explanatory phrase. There really isn't like a direct rule for that. If you just look in the back of your index, look for explanatory parentheticals and look for explanatory phrases and use the rule. A lot of the times these are used to just explain maybe something that you didn't want to put in the text. So let's go to footnote 23. So under footnote 23, she's saying, you know, he acted as a disinterested advisor to various types of contracting parties, blah, 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 archivist. So I think what Professor Stevenson is doing here, she's just kind of explaining some more about where notaries come from, why they, you know, they're there, and such like that. And it goes back to the Latin as in Marcus Tullius Cicero. So that's what's going on there. So with these explanatory phrases and such, I need you guys to be checking for grammatical and for clerical errors here too as well. So you'll probably be, so you're kind of going back and forth between the Blue Book and the Chicago Manual of Style, the CMS, to figure these out. But that's important. And it's also the same for, let's say, a professor wants to explain something about in a case. So, and I'll show you an example of that. Where is Gray's article? So, Gray did the same, and we'll make this a little smaller. As you can tell, I have bad eyes. But here she's citing to a part in her article. That's what the part 1, and that's what infra means. Infra means within in Latin. So she's saying, and what she's saying is that in part 2, I'm going to discuss this Maritime Transportation Security Act. So this right here, I also need you to check for grammatical and for clerical errors as well. So you'll be looking for the you'll be looking at the CMS and at the Blue Book. Also discussing, quoting, citing, what are some other similar things that people use, and that's kind of going to be in your rules regarding signals, which would be Rule 1.2. Kind of explains and gives you some examples. That's in the Blue Book about how to, you know, if it's a discussing, if it's an explaining, if it's a quoting sort of things. A lot of times authors use these for cases too, in other words, to say that, you know, Sotomayor discussing blah, 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 or Justice Kennedy explaining, you know, what it means to be, you know, but for a test or something like that. So that's what's going on there. So same thing as with this. I need you guys to make sure that you're checking for text and, well, your text editing, but I need you to check for clerical and for grammatical mistakes. And again, for this discussing, explaining, and everything like that, that's going to be in Rule 1.2 for the Blue Book. So, also, as you can see in Stevenson's article, Stevenson, I think she kind of chose some things to put in there, but again, you see I needed to find the note there and put it in there, so you're going to have to find the note for that too. So the Blue Book, I find the Blue Book formatting or the editing is sometimes a little bit harder than the text editing because it's not just grammar and it's not just style. You have to look at Blue Book rules because I need to make sure that all of this is in proper Blue Book format. And also, you need to make sure, you know, like this with the small caps and everything. That's what I mean by proper Blue Book format. And then, you know, you're also going to have to go back to your articles. Let's see. And make sure that whatever they're citing in there also matches up as well. So it kind of, I find that the Blue Book editing is kind of a mishmash, mixed match of both text and Blue Booking. So hopefully that kind of explains a little more. As you go along, you'll get easier. So here's something, the Louisiana Administrative Code. This is something I was trying to explain to you all the other night about how you need to have the date of the actual physical reporter, and I think this one was probably 2013. So we'll go back to mine. And yes, it was 2013. So I actually had to pull the physical book and do it. All right. So hopefully that gives y'all a little better idea of cutting and pasting, you know, what you're looking for with each one. You can use the checklist. I used to make my own checklist. I used to do like grammatical things first because I find that's easy. You can get that out of the way. And then I would do spacing, and then I would do like pagination, that kind of stuff. I would make sure all this, my footnote numbers were correct. Then I would go into the Bluebook and I'd start, you know, finding these spaces that you have to fill in, like here and here and here and such. Remember, id is always, and the period is always going to be italicized. That will be very helpful for you guys too as well. So let me show you what my turned in assignment for Professor Stevenson looked like. Obviously, I had track changes on, and we'll go a little bit more. And they can see, so Ray Hicks, who was the executive editor, could see that I had deleted some spacing and such like that. I added number 3, which was the proper one. Obviously, there were no problems with this footnote. That was totally in proper format. Stevenson was really good about those sorts of things. So this right here, the little section symbol, if you have a Mac, I'm sure it's also the same for PC users, but you need to create a shortcut for that for yourself to do that. So we're going to do undo. So what else? So that's what it looks like. As you can see, if I made some changes to like a number, so she said at 27 that was supposed to be at, let's see, I'll get rid of Gray's article as we go along. I don't need to save that. Back to the original. So 27, she was saying it was at 490 or at 876. Well, whenever I checked the proposition, it was actually at 875. So she was quoting, okay, notaries spread to parts of Europe and are now England, France, and Spain. So that was actually on page 875 and not 876. And I just made a note of that for Ray so that he could see that a little better. So as you notice, I don't really have my Bluebook rules in my comments. That's up to you guys. You can put them in there. I'm probably going to go back and look at the Bluebook rules anyway, but I do want you all, you know, you should go ahead and put, you know, if you looked at a Bluebook rule, let me know which one it was and you changed it. You know, like this one, you can cite the rule that says that you got to quote the physical copy. That's fine. But this is what I would do for each article that I turned in. So for the Chicago Manual of Style, these were the rules that I consulted or that I actually used. And it just kind of helped me keep track of everything because I found myself like constantly maybe going back to 6.28 or 6.29. There's also a really good table that I kept going back to, and then of course the passive voice rule. And then Bluebook rules, I just put, you know, maybe I might have used the italicization rule for foreign words or not, you know, but like 4.2, I definitely was in the infra and the supra area a lot. So it just kind of helped me keep track. And then it gives me an idea of what you looked at. You might not have used the rule because, I mean, if you're just going to change a period because the id doesn't have a period, I don't really need to know about that. You know, you don't need to tell me, oh, I went to the id rule or whatever. That's fine. I can figure that out. So that's just kind of an idea of what to do. I think that's about it. If you guys have any other questions, you know, please email me. Come find me in the office. You know, I'm willing to do it. You know, but, you know, just do your best. That's what they always say in law school. And hopefully it'll be good. I'm sure y'all are all seem very, like you're all very hard workers. So one of your other classmates had a question about turning in the sources onto the Twin site. So we don't want sources turned in on Twin. We just want your checklist and your Word with your track changes edits. And that goes for footnotes and for text edits. So your sources are actually going to be attached in the physical copy, and that's what, along with your checklist, along with your Word document with your track changes, and that's what's going to be dropped off into Candace's box at first. So hopefully this was a good tutorial. But yeah, just get used to the Bluebook. I want y'all to play around with it. I didn't want to go over too much with you guys because I need you guys to really, you know, get your hands on the Bluebook, start doing it, because I don't want to have to be doing, over 1,000 footnotes.